Alright guys, let me get all the posts out, let everybody know we're going live, and then we'll jump to it. Where we at? There we go. Well, if I can get it here in a second. Just got a couple more here and then we got it. Okay, I think that's got it. So guys, like always, if you have any tickers, questions, anything like that, just throw them up in chat and we'll go over them. This is the best time. If you have any tickers for me to go over, we can break them down now at the beginning of the week and get a heads up of what they could do going into the week. Okay, so I've got a few things for us to go over and look at. A couple of things to watch out for this week. And we can also go over any of the tickers that you guys want to go over. Just throw them up in chat and I'll write them down and we'll go over them. I'll try to sprinkle them in with the stuff that I've got here too. That way we're not just running down my stuff right after another. Writing down a couple of these here. If you ever wonder where I find some of my rally stocks and stuff like that, guys, what I do is, where is it at? There, Fenviz. I go to the screener and I've got a video up on Fenviz and it goes over my, sorry, let's go back there. And it goes over my version of the Party Starter app, or inputs. Pretty much, to boil it down, you just come here, you go to all, go to signal, you do unusual volume, industry stocks only. I start out with the current volume of over 2 mil. I put performance on today up, and then I'll change between the market caps of mid and small. And if I don't get, like see right here where it's only got 2 on the mid, I may try to go up to 1 million. I try to get under 10 stocks. See, so that's 3, so that'd be good for that one. Then you can go over to small, and see, so that's 11 stocks, so let's go up to 2 million and see what we get. Yeah, see, that boils it down to a little bit more, 7. And, you know, it kind of gives you the rally type stocks. And then I've showed you before on Weeble what I'll do with the heart. I'll go over here and go to the change and put the highest change ones up top and start running them down through there. Plus, I'll look at the top, the active, and the popular and run those down. So that's usually where I'll start with stocks for the week, like stuff that might only run a day to about 3 or 4 days, give or take. But with that being said, let's start running some of these down. First, I want to go over with y'all the overall market. Once this loads up here. So we ended the day green. I'm pretty sure most of them. At least I know the SPY and maybe the Nasdaq was a little bit green, but it was right there at it. Overall, the sentiment was bearish, or direction was bearish. The high sectors were financials, energy, consumer staples, utilities. Look for this coming week to be high in tech and consumer discretionary stocks. Communication services probably another one. Stuff like that. A couple of things to watch out if I can find what I'm looking for here. Okay, this is what they call a super earners week. And what it is there's a lot of big names doing earnings this week. And we've got, I mean, just to give an example, we've got Google, Apple, Amazon, Twitter. I mean, there's just a bunch of big names doing earnings this week. And those big names are in tech and consumer stocks, which means the SPY, if a lot of these big names ended up having bad earnings, then it can affect the SPY big time, especially things like Apple, Google, Amazon. So that's what you want to watch out for. If we start getting quite a few big earners reporting bad, then watch the overall market come down. And when that does, of course, it's going to bring other stocks with it. The market goes from risk on to risk off. So they quit taking risks. They try to clear up margin, things like that, right? Mainly what I'm looking for is if it breaks under this little box I have created here right around, let me find the 452. That's when I'll see the overall market really look bearish instead of just kind of heading in a bearish direction. And a couple other things we got to look out for. It's at all-time highs, which is also a resistance level. If we come down, we can see that it's tried to test it several times and not broke over it. Plus that famous N shape, you know, starting to form that R. That's what we got to watch out for. If it breaks the 200, then look for it to come on down. So with that, putting that in mind and knowing that we could have a bearish market if some of these earners start reporting bad news, the opposite is also true. If they start reporting a bunch of good news and good earnings, then we can expect it to break all-time highs and continue up. So just be aware of that as you're trading this week, and know that if the market goes risk off, start watching some of your more non-conviction, well, what most people consider non-conviction plays, like your meme stocks, stuff like that. Be careful, they can come on, pull on back too. Now, with that being said, let's start going over some of my picks, some of my stocks, what I'm looking at. We know at the end of last week, Friday, I bought puts, excuse me, on Wells Fargo. We can see here from this one, I've kind of drew it up a little bit better. Two things is happening here. For one, we have had a run for several days, and that's highly unusual. Usually you want to see a little bit more pullbacks, and really the only pullback we had is this small one right here, and it bounced right off. But we're coming right up along this resistance level, which is also a trend line resistance level and a horizontal resistance level. But I mean, while this could double top and come back down, we also have to be aware that this could be an ascending triangle and break out. Now for me, for as long as that's been running, I'm not worried about if it's going to eventually break out. I just want a good enough pullback. It'd be nice if it would come down to this green 50-day before it bounced. But even if it comes down to, where am I looking at? Anywhere right around this area and bounces, that would be, you know, $100 payday per contract on that one. Those that watch the live stream Friday on Power Hour, let me pull it up here, watched in real time as we started seeing, we're doing volume analysis and stuff like that on it, and we watched and seen as more volume and things like that, the order books, stuff like that, started coming into BBIG, we started seeing the uptick, and sure enough, I called it in the after hours. It was going to spike, and it did. And now we are kindly in this symmetrical triangle, looking for the breakout. As long as it stays above the 200, going into the pre-market, going into the bell, this still should be good for the calls that I have, and good for the stock overall. So BBIG right now is looking pretty decent. This is your 15-minute chart. If we pull back to the 4-hour, we can see that it's pretty much bouncing right off that old resistance line. We are still in this flag coming out. We do need it to get a break above. We thought we was going to get it right here, but if it breaks out of this trend line, look for another run. That's when I would expect it. Okay, so that's the two big plays that we made on Friday. So some of the ones that we got coming, some of the ones that I ran down. Here's the first one, XPDI. We can see that it's in this flag. We did have a engulfing candle here, but it's not broken out of this trend, so I'm going to keep an eye on this on the pre-market. Most of the ones I'm showing you now, especially the rally stocks, I'm mainly going to be watching the pre-market, and that's the reason I've been waiting for the pre-market to put out my watch list, is I want to see how some of these react in the pre-market and give y'all a better chance of what could run and what might not run. So I'll be watching for this to stay at least above the 50 and probably break out the top of this one. If it does, this one could be a decent play come Monday. Let's see if y'all have any questions as of now. Okay. If there's any questions y'all have of anything I'm mentioning, you just let me know and we'll run them down. So, since that's one of mine, let's do a couple of y'all's here and we'll run some of these down. HYZN, pretty sure this is an EV stock. Yep. It's actually, even though it's sold off, just here on the 15 minutes, it actually doesn't look too bad. I mean, this is technically a flag, an upside down flag. This is usually a bullish pattern. We do have volume, but before I would like to play this, I'd like to see the 15-day cross the 50 with the price above it. If the price could get above that 200 and we get that cross, this one could really do good. If we pull back to the 4-hour, we can see that we had the sell-off. We're mainly looking for the consolidation. It's kindly found that. We've not fully found support yet. So until we do, watch this stock to pretty much keep bouncing off this 50. Where it needs to find that support, probably consolidate there maybe a few days, and then bounce up. So that's what you want to look for. But overall, until it breaks that 50, this is still probably going to be bearish. But it's not a bad stock to watch. I see why you're watching it. It's a good one to keep your eye on. It's sold off. It's been bullish before. It's not a bad one to watch. It's just not in play yet. So let's put this one on our watch list, and that way we can go over it and look at it. Another one y'all had to look at is EXPR. And that's not EXPR. So Express. Yeah, Express is having a little bit of a rough spell. It's still trading under that 50 on the 4-hour chart. Let's check the lower time frames and see what we got. Again, we kind of have this bearish pattern or bullish pattern here. Usually you'll see these form once or twice before it actually breaks out. It kind of, what it does is after once or twice of it, it forms like a trend channel down, and those usually break out to the upper side, but it's very rare on the first one you see it break out. So watch, see if this rejection here at this 50-day holds. If it breaks above it, you may be good. I mean, just start looking for it to make higher lows and things like that, like it has been pretty much this same trend upwards is what you're looking at. If it's going to be bullish. If it's going to go bearish, it'll get rejected here, and you'll probably see something along the lines of come down, and then break up eventually. So you'll see these flags like this, like you'll see it move a little bit sideways, then spike down. It'll come up a little bit, spike down, just like it did here. So you'll see 2 or 3 of these in a row before it breaks out. Usually, not always, usually. Oh, I want rid of that pattern. There, now I can get rid of both of them. Expo. We haven't talked about that one in a while on here. Expo. Yeah, see, look, I mean, here's whenever you start pulling back, let me ask you something. If you had $100 left to your name, would you invest in this stock right now? I mean, it's constantly sold off. It's constantly getting rejected. So what you want to do is you want to wait for it. This is not a bad one to watch. I mean, it's been selling off for a while. It's in the medical sector. So what you do instead is set you an alert for a break anywhere just right above the 50-day EMA line. Set you that alert. Also set you a sharp rise and sharp fall alert for it to go above. And check, if you don't get nothing on it, check on it in a few days. You may have to adjust your alert if it sells on off. But if it breaks above it, then you can start watching it and see what it does. So these are not bad. I see why you're watching them. They sold off. But until they start breaking some of these EMA lines and start making higher lows, they're just not worth putting it in right now. It would be a lottery ticket to buy into this right now. Another one I've got is Prague. It's back on the list again. For this reason right here. It's been trending upwards. It keeps bouncing in between these lines here. This last bounce we got, not only was it off of, the support, but it was off the trend line. We come to the 15-minute, we see that's an ascending triangle. It keeps bumping up against this resistance while at the same time making higher lows. And usually these, when they do break out, they go soaring. I mean, they take off. The reason why we follow trends and patterns like this is other people follow them. They watch for those things. That's their buy-in point too. So when they see it, everybody jumps on it. If that makes sense. So what ends up happening, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So some people, that's a little bit more riskier. As soon as they see it approaching this line, they'll buy in. And what that does is it causes a little spike up, and then other people say, well, right there's the bounce. I'm going to buy in. So it continues up, and as it makes more and more going up, more and more people buy in. And then when it starts getting up here, you'll have some sell and some hold. And then eventually you're going to have enough hold to where it breaks out. It didn't do it here. If you look, this barely got it, but you can see the wicks on it are shallow. This one gets closer, but it's still hitting wicks until the full candle hits it. That's more and more people holding each time it gets closer to that line. Right? So eventually, enough people might hold to where it breaks out, and then that's when everybody that's been watching for that breakout says, okay, the more conservative guys say, that's my time to buy in, here I am, and it becomes a dog pile. It rallies. Does that make sense? Yeah, D-Walk was, I mean, that's a crazy runner. I'm actually looking at it for puts this week. It's ran up too high. There's no way it's staying up there. If it does, that'll just blow my mind. That just shows you how people would jump onto anything. Mark is another one I'll be going over too. Yeah, we'll put XPO on the list. We'll put Fedex on the list. Yeah, Prague's one that definitely the pre-market is going to tell the tale on it. But if it does good in the pre-market, it could signal a good buy moment for that one. Let me make sure I still got you on the right channel here. Okay. So since we mentioned Mark, let's go ahead and pull it up. I know some people got in on it Friday and it ran into the after hours and they said they're worried about it. I think this little sell-off here got them. But if you notice, it's still staying above this 15. If this continues to stay above the 50-day going into the pre-market tomorrow, if we get a good bounce off of this 50-day, this could be a really good runner for Monday. This could be a really good chance that it could continue on. So this one I'm going to be watching the pre-market. I'm going to be watching for it to stay bullish and look for this bounce off the 50-day. If it continues on running up here, I'm not going to jump in because it's overextended at that point. The RSI is going to be hot. And while it could continue running, it's just too much of a risk to jump in at that moment for me. I'm going to need that pullback and the bounce before I would feel comfortable jumping in. Let's see. What's another one I've seen here? SEAH. Here's another one I found. Again, it's an ascending triangle. This is pretty volatile, you can tell right here, but it is climbing. As long as it stays above the 50 going into the pre-market, again, this is one that I would consider. The volume is not extremely high, but it is over 1 million. It is looking good. The free float is low at 45 million. So this one, if it breaks out, could do really good. That's SEAH. Let me run through a couple of these real quick, and then we'll get back on track with some of y'all's too. Here's another one that's continuing to climb. We can see that we did get the pullback. If we come up here to the hour real quick, put the fib on it, we can see that it pulled back to the 61% and bounced. So that's a good signal for this one. Again, as long as it stays above that 50 in the pre-market, this one could be setting up really nice. We've got the split, we got above the 200, and we got the 61% pullback. That's, I mean, guys, that's 4 or 5 indicators right there, all setting up for a good little run if it will stay bullish. Once it does bounce into the pre-market, the next area you want to be watching for is right around here. It needs to break out of this for it to run even higher. But even, let's see, from where it is now to there, that's 7%. So you could get almost 8% just on the run up to see if it gets rejected there. That's the reason why technical analysis is so important. If you've seen that get rejected there, and you're not watching things like EMA lines, stuff like that, you would probably wait for it to come a lot further back down. But if you see it get rejected here and it doesn't break that 15 and it tries it a few more times, then you know to hold until it breaks that 15. If it breaks the 15, you know to sell, take your 7%, not worry about it. Or you wait for the breakout and you continue the rally and it keeps going. So technicals are a good way to watch a stock to get an idea of how it can move instead of just waiting for it to drop 10%, waiting for it to drop 3 or 4%. You still can get out while in profit, if that makes sense. And that's actually, let's see what options. If you used to play options on this, and it done the same thing, if it went up to 12 and got rejected, you're looking at $56 just on one options call on that. If it moved $1 from where it is right now, and you was playing options in the morning, you'd make $56 just on that run up, just to see if it's going to break out. That's not bad, guys. I mean, that's the type of plays that really set up really nicely, because it's a win-win no matter what you do, as long as it stays bullish. Okay, let's run down a couple of y'alls here real quick, and then I've got a few more. Let's do Fedex. Fedex is looking good. I think it's got earnings, right? That says next earnings 12/16. Is that right? I thought I had earnings this week too. Let me look real quick. Fedex. Maybe it already did have earnings. Yeah, let me show you this real quick, guys. I posted this on Twitter and some of the Discords I'm part of. This is the most anticipated earnings calendar. Check it out. We have Facebook, Logitech, Visa, Google, Microsoft, AMD, GE, 3M, UPS, Hood, Enphase, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Ford, GM, Boeing, Spotify, Amazon, Shopify, Gleed, Comcast, ExxonMobil, all in 1 week. That's the reason why this whole week can affect the market a lot. But no, it's UPS that has earnings, not Fedex. But sometimes these stocks can trade in sympathy with each other. But right now, Fedex looks pretty decent. I mean, it has been running for a few days, so you might want to be watching for a pullback. But other than that, it's looking pretty decent. I don't know what any recent news is on it. It has sold off for a while though, and on the excuse me, on the 4 hour, the 200 is at 239. So that's where you want to watch for the next big rejection. It's around 239. If it breaks above that, Fedex could continue to do good. More than likely, its first attempt, it's going to get rejected though. XPO. XPO's not bad neither. It's running right up again on the 4 hour. Watch the 87 mark. I would suspect that the first time again it gets rejected. That doesn't mean it has to come all the way back down to 73. Usually, if a stock is going to stay bullish on this 4 hour, when they get rejected, it's to the 15 or the 50. And then you'll see a bounce and a continuation. Let's see what the lower time frames look like. Yeah, see, it's been bullish for a while, so it's probably ready for a little bit of a pullback. But overall, the way this one's running, it's probably going to stay bullish even after that pullback. I mean, it looks good for it anyway. I mean, it's hard telling about some of these stocks in the mid caps because some of them can run for a really long time. Let's see what kind of 78. So yeah, even though it's run, it's what? Just a few percent. Let's go from since it's been over the 200 to now. We are right at about 10%. So yeah, I would look for a pullback on this one. Guys, we played CLF last week. X is this week earnings. Overall, I think this stock is going to do good. I'm not quite sure yet how it's going to do on earnings as of right now. I'm pretty sure it's going to beat estimates as far as earnings and revenues go. But it looks like the people that makes these articles and things like that, the analysts and stuff like that, are kind of like bearish on the outlook. So that could affect how it does during earnings. So if you're in this, watch it during earnings. If it pulls back, I mean, it would really have to miss big time for it to pull back a ton. But if it misses, it's probably going to pull back some. if you're in it, I wouldn't worry about that too much. It's probably going to pick right back up shortly after that and do good for a little bit. But just kind of be a heads up for earnings on it. Overall, I do think the stock is going to do pretty good, though. Let's see. CEI is one that y'all put on there, and I was looking at earlier. We did have the sell-off, but look how true it stayed to support right here. It did not want to break its support. Let's actually adjust this just a little bit better. Rolled right out, but it needs to break over this 50-day. Probably what you'd see is it come up, break over it, test the 200, come back down to the 15, bounce. If you see that pattern, go up to the 200, come back down to the 15, and then bounce. Look for it to come up and at least test this 166 resistance. A couple more I got here is AUPH. It run up in the after hours. Right now I wouldn't jump into this, but if it does cool off in the pre-market, comes down probably to the 50, which it should be right in through here around then, right around 2730 to 2750. If it comes down to there and bounces, this one could be a good one to jump into. We went over MAC, we went over BBIG, we went over Wells Fargo puts. EWOP. This is the one that ran up. This is the one everybody liked. Guys, if you're still holding on after this thing ran up to $175 from when we called it out around $12, I can't help you. You're going to hold this thing until it goes all the way back to the ground. There's nothing else I can say about that. This is not a stock that is going to live at $100. It's not going to do it. Eventually, people are going to take their profits, and it's going to go, and it's probably going to happen sooner than later. Right now, it's not showing me any prices on stocks or on options, but as soon as Monday hits, I'm going to be looking at puts on this. I'm probably going to go out a month, buy puts for around the, I'm going to go cheap with it. I'll probably buy several around the $50 range and just wait for it to drop. I think this stock is going to live around the $20 to $40 range. Bros is another one that we sold out of last week. Again, if we look at it, it has made a higher low, but guys, a couple of things about this one. It is a fairly new stock. It has done great. It's bounced off of this, and it has run for several days, well, a couple of weeks at this point. What do we got here? Let's see. Since it bounced. Why is this doing this? Since the bounce, it was 11 days ago. Just since the bounce. Off the 200. So, I know we got this one pullback here, but I just don't look for this to live up here right now. So, if this shows that it's going to get rejected here, where it's at, I'm going to pick up some puts on it. Why is this, man? There, I don't know. Maybe it's my mouse or something. Keeps jerking with it. But that's where I'm at on this. Overall, I was bullish on it, but it being a new stock and being running this hot, I just don't see it going much more. I mean, can it? Yeah, stock can do anything, but I think a good little pullback is going to come before it goes bullish again. We have charge point we're looking at. Guys, with charge point, we have the 15 over 50 cross. We've had it since back here. It's up over the 200. It's bounced right at the 15 and the 200 together. It's come up, it's retested again, and now it's bouncing again. It is offering a great entry point at this point. EV stocks are doing good, and if it returns to recent highs, let's look at this 1 second. If it was to go back to recent highs, now this would be a swing stock. You could play options on it. It's probably going to run up pretty quick to about $23, $25. That's good enough for options. But for this one, I think it'd be a good hold. And if it went back to recent highs from where it's at right now, bouncing off the 200, back to, let's say, right here, that's 67%. That's $14 a share and 67% gain. Guys, I mean, that's awesome for a swing trade. Most people shoot for 15 to 20%, and that is 67%. And it's the first time it's broke above the 200 and showed signs that it's going to stay above it on the 4 hour. See, look, every other time it's broke up, it's come right back down. It's not bounced, not even once, let alone twice like this one has. The 15-minute is looking good. It keeps bouncing off this 200, looking really good. So, as a swing trade, I think this is setting up really nice. And I'm definitely going to be picking me up some of this. TME is another one. Again, it sold off. I remember playing this stock, playing puts on this when it was at $20-some a share. Yeah, see, it was right up here close to 30. We bought puts right here on this big play back in maybe March. Let's see what February, March. And it's sold off ever since. But now, just like Charge Point, it's above the 200 and it's bounced. Now, do I look for this one to go back up to $20? No, I don't. But I do think there's good enough that you could double your money on this. I believe it could go to $15, $16. Not like within a day or two. It's going to be probably 2 or 3 week hold if it gets bullish. It could be even longer if it stays at the pace it's going now. Let's see if we take the angle and pace it's going at right now. Let's say from here to here. And we attach that on there. And we attach it on there. And we attach it on there. So that's almost at $15 there. So again, let's look and see what that time period is. That's 19 days. So that could be 2 or 3 months if you're just going with that time period. But it's going back up. It's looking good. Me, I think in order to get at least 50%, you're looking at probably a 2 week hold. QS is another one, and this one has earnings this week. If it bounces off of this trend line here, it's at least coming back up to this trend line. We have this gap here, this big sell-off. That probably, if it bounces, it should get filled pretty quickly in a day or two. So that's from 23 to 25. That's great for calls. But if it breaks above that, that'd be time to get in for a little bit of longer hold. And you're probably looking at, if you bought in here and you hold past this, your return on investment would be at least 24% if it returned to recent highs. If we continue on back and go even further back, I mean, it could be a couple 100%. This stock has done good. This sell-off here is because where Tesla reported earnings, and Tesla, this is a battery company, and Tesla reportedly using their own charging stations and stuff like that, along with a few other things. I'm pretty sure that's the reason why that sold off there. I'd have to look and see if there's any more bad news, but I think for the most part, guys, except for skills, that's all I got. And then we'll go over any more that you guys have here and any questions. Skills is setting up nicely. If it breaks over this 200, I could easily see it going back up to the $13 range. Again, that would be a pretty good little spike there. We're looking at your ROI being 35% at that point. It just needs to break above that 200 and hold it. That's where that would be really good. Now, that's what I've got. Let me run down two more that you guys have here, and then we'll look and see what else y'all got. RGS. Yeah, RGS, it's sold off. RSI is pretty low. You are getting a little bit of bullish divergence in RSI, where it's getting higher and lower. The MACD is starting to turn a little bit bullish, but again, you want to wait for confirmation. Wait, done something there and checked that out before. Wait for it to break above this 50-day. Wait for it to break up above it and bounce. Just like we was showing with, what was it, charge point, and there's something else there too. Where it broke above it and continued on like that, like it breaks above it, come back, retest it, and bounce. That's what you want to wait for on these type of stocks. They're good to watch when they sell off, but you want to set you an alert just right up above the 50-day. And put the price movement also on sharp rise or sharp fall. So it'll alert you if there's a sharp rise or sharp fall, or if it gets above that price. The other one you have is ZEV. I like this company. It hasn't been doing great right as of right now. Last spike up we had was during the earnings. It done really well. So I see again while you're watching this, it's sold off, and it's a company that's at a deal. It looks like it's almost at support, like it's wanting to get there. Well, so watch around these lines. Let me adjust this a little bit better. If it bounces anywhere in one of those three lines, that would be a very good, that would confirm that it's found support, and then you want to wait for the break above the 50. That would be a really nice setup on that, because it's you had to sell off, it's consolidated, now you're just waiting for the bounce. Alright, let me see if y'all have any questions, anything to go over. Oh crap, I just see what I did here, guys. Yeah, I seen that. Oh shit, I'm so sorry. I'm a dumbass. I got too ahead of myself, man. So, let me say this then. I know where we dropped off. Shit. Okay, so what we need to watch out for. Charge point is a good swing play. Let me do a quick recap right here real quick. Charge point, it's a good swing play. It's bounced off this 200, bounced again, continued on. That's what we want to see. If it continues up this pattern here, off of this bounce, it could hit highs all the way back up to here, at least to 30, possibly to 36. It would make for a really decent swing play right now. QS, we're waiting for the bounce off of this trend line support and this horizontal support. If it bounces here, it's going to at least continue up to here. This is the one I told you that had about 8% and could possibly run to about 20 to 25%. Skills, we're waiting for the break above that 200. If it does that, I look for it to continue on to $13. It's done really good, but this will be the first time that we would have a break above the 200 and confirmation of it. PME was the other one. Again, it is not broke above the 200 until we get back down there to where we're at now. And not only is it broke, but it's broke above it, come back, retested, and bounced. So it's set up pretty nicely. Again, we want to watch these in the pre-market and see how they do. Is there any tickers you guys want me to look at? Was there anything that I went over that when I had it on there, you guys was interested in and didn't get to see? Well, guys, if you appreciate what I'm doing here, hit that like and subscribe button. And if there's anything y'all want me to look at right now, is a chance to go back over it. How about Plug? I see that one. Let's check it out. How about Plug? I like Plug, but I've not looked at it in a few days. I like EV charging in general. I think as of right now, my two, maybe three biggest ones are ChargePoint, Blink, and probably Plug. Yeah, that would probably be my other one. Yeah, it looks like Plug is coming up on a good resistance level. Make sure y'all still with me. Okay. Up on a good resistance level. If it gets rejected again here, I would consider that a double top, and it's probably going to come back and test this. I can't see what that is, but it's around 29.14 support. If it bounces at the 15-day, it's going to retest this. If you want this to stay bullish, look for the break above this 35. But to be honest with you, I think Plug is the highest it's been in a while. I mean, yeah, look, back here was June, and then before that, it wasn't above it until March. It was at its highest in January. So it would be a really big deal if it broke above this resistance, that 35 resistance. If it broke above that, you could see this thing really take off. It would be a really big deal. RGS, yes, we'll look at that one. And then let's look at what else you got here. Mdlz. Okay, RGS. That's not RGS. There we go. Okay, so what I was saying here on RGS was that it's sold off, and it's, what was its lowest? So it's at its lowest point in a really long time. So I see why you're watching it. It's sold off. It looks like it's found somewhat of support. If we blow this up here and look at the 4 hour, it looks like it's found this support. So yeah, I mean, this looks good. You just want to wait for that break above the 50-day is what you want to wait for. Because you have the sell-off, you have the consolidation, but in order for this to start doing any good, you need a reason for people to buy it. And the start of that would be if it could break above this 50-day and come back, retest it, and bounce. It's not, there's only a few times that it's broke above the 50-day, and each time it's not held it. You can see here, that's the closest it's come to holding it, and it quickly broke right down below it the next time it retested it. See, it broke above here and then quickly sold off. So that's what you need. You need a break above that 50, a retest, and a bounce. with good volume would help along with that too. So that's the setup I would be looking for if you wanted to play this one. Mdlz. So what you have here is what they call an ascending triangle. I think we talked about a couple of these earlier. But pretty much, well, let's go down here. You go with that one. Well, that didn't take. Or you could go with that one. But what you want to see, I like this longer one down here, as far as the way this is set up. But what it does, it keeps making higher lows, right? While keep butting up against this. And the theory behind this is usually they break out to the top because they have nowhere else to go. It keeps hitting the bull or the bears up here, but the bulls keep pushing it up until eventually it's just tested so many times it breaks. Again, this is a very bullish pattern, and it's one that people watch a lot. This is one of the most common patterns to break out to the top. So when people usually see this breakout, they jump on it. What's the volume? The volume's up over 1 million, so that's good for it. It'd be really nice if it could get a little bit more eyes on it. The free float's a little high. It's at 1 billion. I'm not going to lie to you about that. But overall, this one doesn't look too bad. Excuse me 1 second, please. Sorry about that. My son's getting excited with video games. But yeah, that's actually not a bad little setup. Let's put us an alert there. Let's also do sharp rise and sharp fall. That way, excuse me. That way, if it breaks above that, we can jump on it as soon as it alerts us and see what it does. But yeah, that's not a bad little setup on that one. Let's see. Well, guys, I will set us up. Again, hit that like and subscribe button if you appreciate what I'm doing. It helps me out with YouTube's algorithm. I'm going to set us up to do the morning briefing stream again. We're going to try to do that every morning this week, as long as something don't come up. We'll start at 9 and we'll go to about 11ish, give or take 20 minutes or so, depending on if people are getting into it or want to continue to do it or whatever. We'll just go with that. See how the day turns out. Possibly jump onto some trades. We'll go over some of these stocks we went over now, plus look at any more that might arise. We'll try to do like a pre-market briefing on it, see what's running, see what's worth playing. We'll try to go over some of these stocks I've been looking at for earnings plays, explain my thoughts behind them. I got one on Apple that I'm waiting to see how Monday does. But my thoughts on Apple right now is that due to some of the stuff around it, I believe it's going to sell off a little bit, and it may sell off enough to do puts. But overall, I think it's going to do pretty decent for earnings. Really, the only thing that can hold it back now is an outlook over the bad press it's getting right now. I mean, that's pretty much what's brought down Spotify, Twitter, all that stuff, is that new ruling on what kind of data they can use and stuff like that, third-party data. But overall, I don't think it's going to affect it for earnings. So probably the play on this one maybe puts up until the evening before earnings, which I think is Tuesday evening, and then calls after that. And if it breaks above this trend line, this stock is going to go back up at least to the high 150, possibly 160. If it breaks above that, who knows? I mean, it's been a while since it's been above that. Yeah, see, that's the highest it has been. The sky's the limit after that. But I do believe that we are going to see, at least the high 50s on this one. We'll just have to wait and see how earnings does. I didn't even know Apple had a dividend, but it looks like they got a pretty good dividend. So, I mean, we're past the ex-dividend date, so that's not going to hurt us on any options or anything like that. But yeah, that's a play. But yeah, catch up with us in the morning. We'll go over the pre-market stuff, and I'll see if I can keep it on the right browser window this time. Alright guys, y'all have a great one. Thanks for joining me for Sunday Stocks Talk. Let me make sure one more time. See if y'all have anything to go over. On Apple, what's my alert set at, or which one? Yeah, we can go look more at X. I went over just a little bit of it earlier. I was saying, pretty much overall with X, I do think that X is going to look good, at least in the shorter, longer term, if that makes sense. I'm just not convinced yet how it's going to do at earnings. I think it's going to beat earnings and revenue, but I'm more worried if what analysts look at with its outlook is going to hurt it. Because revenue and outlooks are the most two things looked at when if earnings can spike the price or not. I know a lot of people put it on EPS, but it's really, in my experience, it's those two things. I've seen them get way negative EPS, but have good revenue and a good outlook, and they shoot right to the moon. But yeah, we'll go over more about that. We'll look up any information on a few of these if we get any downtime. As long as we don't have too much running and we're not playing too much, we'll go over some earnings stuff. But alright guys, let's call it a stream. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me, and we'll catch y'all in the morning. Bye.